So, personal competencies employed in developing and managing the business. So that's our next topic. What personal skills have you valued the most in terms of moving your idea forward?
I guess the first personal quality is just like sheer hard work, like being able to being able to just get the work done even when you're tired, or even when you're tired, or if it's just basically showing up. The second one is like communicating, being able to communicate with people, because most businesses are just about people, no matter what your product is, because you need to be able to communicate your idea. You need to be able to get people excited about what you're doing. You need to be able to bring people on board to help out or to be involved in some way. So that ability to sort of be able to communicate with people and get them interested, it's definitely a very, very useful skill to have.
So let's do setting goals and planning.
Setting goals and planning.
You alright for you need a break?
No, I'm good.
Great.
Am I talking too much? Let me know
no,
if
it's great.
Yeah.
How important has it been for you to set goals in order to move your ideas, business forward?
I think it's really important. I think it's reasonably important to set goals. Like you should always have things written down that you want to do, so that when you finish something, you don't spend time thinking, oh, what's next? Because it's already there. You can just look at, okay, this is next. Let's chase that. I think it's important to have that, but then also it's important to be like really flexible as well, because what your goals are at the start of the thing very different from like maybe 6 months in, because by then you have a lot more insight and a lot more knowledge. You can see what's more possible than others, so then you can then adjust those goals or expand or reduce them as required. So I think it's important to have goals, but it's also important to be flexible and to just sort of like go with it as it comes along. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you as a person, as a professional, or just in general as a person, what short-term or long-term goals have you set for yourself?
Yeah.
And where do you actually see yourself in, say, what does future Fayome look like?
So the goals, I have some short-term goals, which I'm hitting currently, which is just to like make videos every month. And my original plan was to make 4 videos a month, but then as I started doing this, I realized that was a bit too ambitious, especially for the type of videos I'm doing. But I'm still always making videos. I'm contacting people, I'm shooting. So I'm on target with my short-term goals. My longer-term goals are to sort of like expand, get more views, get more people, more like established people. And so, yeah, those are stuff I'm still kind of working on. And in terms of future me, what I see is to be in a stage where, I'm still sort of behind the camera. I'm still sort of doing that, but not as much. My goal is to have sort of other people creating the content, and I take a more like a backseat. How do I say this? More like a curator role, so curator slash business acquisition type role. So I deal with maybe speaking to people, getting the business, speaking to brands or whatever, getting the sponsorships, but then maybe making the content, like the writing or the making videos, that would be sort of have other more competent people basically doing that kind of stuff is the goal. Yeah.
Okay, so motivation and reasons for creating your business. Was it business or?
Yeah, project business. It's a business. Yeah.
Okay, so
doesn't make much money yet, but it's a business. Yeah.
So, what motivated you to create your project in the first place?
So I've always known, like for a long while now, that I wanted to start something. The idea was always just what is this going to be? And with this, I first got into photography, then like moved into videography, and it's something I really enjoy developing myself in, and there's so much to learn. Um, and so my motivation was just sort of, I wanted to, I have these competencies, how could I use them for good in a way? And so one of the things that really struck me was like there's a lot of things going on in London at this time, especially like a lot of creative things happening. It's like a real hub, and I feel like there isn't really much like putting light on that. I mean, there's stuff out there, don't get me wrong, but I do feel like there is some space to like be able to promote like a lot of the art scene in London, a lot of what's going on. And so that's my motivation to be able to support local artists or local creatives, and to be able to build up their brand, maybe help them get paid more, because right now, like, and I know especially for musicians, it's like abysmal. Like even for painters, there's not that much money like floating around in those circles. And so my aim is to sort of be able to act as a sort of funnel to make sure people get paid like for like the value they're bringing, and like a fair wage, and just to help raise their profile, and just to like push the scene forward a bit more as well.
Great. Let's see. I mean, you touched on life-work balance, but let's
talk more about that.
Say on that. Often with lots of other commitments, how can an entrepreneur like yourself strike a good work-life balance? Is this possible?
Yeah, it's possible. I think it just depends on your circumstances. So, for example, I'm a young single guy who lives alone. So, like, it's very different from if I was like a 40-year-old married guy with kids. Like, then it'd be a lot more harder to strike that balance. But for me, it's pretty straightforward. My job is about 32 hours a week. Work that, and then my video, I try to do minimum of 20 hours a week. And then the rest of the time, just like try to see friends and things like that. But I guess one of the beauties of the things that I'm doing is that like my work and my social can be mixed together. Because, for example, if I'm going to film like a music event or something, I could just ask my friends to come as well, and then we hang out, or like, little events they can go to. But for the most part, I haven't had too much of a problem with that. And I think, as most entrepreneurs know, like sometimes you have like periods of just high intensity workload. So there's like so much during like these 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks later it's just dead, like nothing to do. So yeah, so it's like it's at this stage in what I'm doing, it's quite easy to find a good balance.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Is there any advice you would offer to fellow entrepreneurs who would like to improve their work-life balance? Any steps that they could do?
I heard something that was really good, and it's to do with scheduling, like scheduling time with family and friends. I mean, it sounds like weird, like, oh, I don't need to schedule to see my mom or whatever. But just having that in your calendar as, okay, this time is fully booked, then it really helps you to focus. So if something does come up, like that time's already booked out, so you have to schedule for another time. Whereas if you don't schedule that like family, friends, social time in, it's very easy for when something else comes up, you're like, oh, I have Friday evening free, so I'll do it then. So I guess for me, I think that's the best thing, to schedule in advance those times. Like maybe say 1 day a week, I need to spend time with my friends. So let's try and make that happen.
Right. Decision making. So that's why only the assertive guy.
Yeah.
So how do you make big decisions within your company?
It depends, because there's some things that are like pretty straightforward, open and shut, whereas some things are a bit more nuanced. So for example, there was a girl who wanted to get involved with a project, and I was like, cool. And so, she started helping out, but then I realized that she wasn't really helping, and there was like a little bit of like friction there, and it just wasn't working. But then there was so much indecision, like, oh, should I tell her like, thanks, but no thanks, or should I like try and like stick it out? And then, at that point there was no like clear answer. because you're in the moment. But then it wasn't until like things sort of like got a bit more intense to did I go, okay, no, this is definitely over. And that's something I feel like I could have caught like a lot earlier. So in terms of like this decisiveness, like what was the question?
So how do you make big decisions?
How do I sometimes meditate on it? But I don't feel like I've had to make any like major decisions. I don't think everything I've done has been pretty much like on my part a no-brainer. Like, okay, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to do that. But yeah, most of the time I just sort of go with things and see how they play out. So I haven't really encountered that problem yet.
Okay. Cool. Okay, so communicating, listening, and negotiating. That's our next topic.
Yeah.
In what areas of your business do you need to constantly negotiate? Could you give us an example?
That's a very good one. Negotiating is definitely on a list of things to work on because it's so important. But